Kochie's Business Builders is proudly brought to you by our partner KPMG, who are helping small businesses grow.
Coming up on Kochie's Business Builders, meet the serial entrepreneur who's helping founders find their feet. We reveal the cost-cutting tips that could optimise your business, plus the calendar apps that will help you take back your time. G'day and welcome to a special episode of Kochie's Business Builders, where we'll be taking a deep dive into the entrepreneurial journey of a prolific Aussie founder. Alec Ramsey is a serial entrepreneur who started his first venture straight out of uni. Churchill Gowns disrupted the graduation gown sector by undercutting on price, yet still delivering ethical and sustainable products. His next venture was Florally, which cut out the middleman to deliver longer-lasting flowers straight from the markets to people's homes. His third business startup accelerator, Idea Crunch, helps take people's proposals and build them out into companies. While his latest endeavour, Air, has set its sights on the lucrative fragrance space, bottling up French perfumes at a fraction of the cost to the traditionalists, and it's already shaking up the industry. Alec, good to see you. 4 startups, 4 success stories. That is pretty amazing. Has entrepreneurship always been in your blood?
I didn't start out wanting to be an entrepreneur necessarily. I initially leaving school really loved maths and physics, and that's what I did for my first year at university. Decided that wasn't going to be a great career path and moved to architecture. And then after also kind of concluding that wasn't going to be for me, went into business. So I don't know if that was because I always wanted to be an entrepreneur necessarily, but it kind of fits in. While I was at uni, I started a denim jeans company called Illyrian Jeans, which didn't work out, but that was kind of cutting my teeth. And yeah, from there, I hadn't planned for it, but I've just kind of ended up starting one thing after the next and keep on
Tell us
iterating.
about the first one, Churchill Gowns.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah, so basically I graduated from university and my current business partner in all of these ventures, Stefan Muff, and I sat down and we had a list of ideas, and one of those was Churchill Gowns. And so I'd graduated from university at that point, and renting the gowns from university was $120 for about 2 hours. And my first thought was, I'm sure we can get these made cheaper overseas. And so we just went for it, and we decided that was the one we were going to give a go. And I learned how to code, built the website myself. We spent, I think it was a total of about $3,500 each to be able to get our first run of gowns in, and we launched from there.
Wow. So tell me about your partner, Stefan.
Yeah.
Is that a really key ingredient to the success? Sort of, you're a dynamic duo and you bring different skills?
We've been best friends since high school, so that's, I think, something that can be really beneficial and in other circumstances can be relationship destroying depending on how you work together.
Right.
But for the two of us, we've got incredibly complementary skills, and we've always seen eye to eye, maybe not at the start of any conversation, but we've always been able to pursue that rational train of thought to the point that we've come to good conclusions. So we work really well together as a team.
What are the different skills you each bring?
I fall more towards the marketing side of things and he goes a bit more to the operational side of things, but like we're both involved in everything, to be honest. It's a good dynamic.
Where did you take Churchill Gowns from nothing to? Because you've expanded overseas.
We actually grew that business while I was working other jobs initially, and so was Stefan. So it took about 4 years to get Churchill Gowns to the point that we were able to expand it overseas to the UK.
So it was a side hustle to start with?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually expanded to the UK as a completely separate company. So the way we did that, neither of us wanted to move to London, and we decided there was this opportunity there. And so in kind of growing successfully in Australia as a B2C business, we thought, let's go find a managing director in London who can help head up the exact same company, replicating what we're doing here. And yeah, it took us about 4 years to get there, but yeah, we did.
It's a great success story. We're only a quarter of the way through it. Alec is going to stay with us. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be back with more of his wisdom after this. Coming up, Aussies are tightening their belts, so it's time to get a handle on your business costs. Plus, Tracy Sheen reveals the calendar apps that will help you regain control of your time. Welcome back to Kochie's Business Builders. Is your business keeping costs under control? It's been a big ask this year with inflation, interest rate hikes and rising wages. But there are practical ways to operate more efficiently. To tell us more, I'm joined by Naomi Mitchell, the National Managing Partner Enterprise at KPMG Australia. Naomi, good to see you. Now, give us the 3 top priorities that you have in our cost optimisation checklist for businesses at the moment.
The first one is to define the process that needs to be optimised. The second is to really measure and identify what process we're going to do to optimise it. And the third, of course, is to really analyse and improve that process.
Okay, let's bring it back to real life. Give us some scenarios that businesses can adopt for each of those 3 points.
So, for example, in procurement, businesses should really be looking at their supplier data for where they can be more competitive or get that advantage. If we take it into the finance division of a business, what we're seeing there is a lot of innovation coming in, which is allowing people to move on to value-added services for the business. If you look at day-to-day operations, it's really about analysing the product, the segment, the market that we're in, and cutting those non-profitable ones. You can also look really into the cost of debt. Are you actively looking at what you're paying for your interest rates and things like that? With regards to labour and workforce, the costs are increasing. So they've got to be analysing that mix of part-time, full-time and really looking at their rostering or their scheduling with an eagle eye. And last of all, my favourite is the tax implications. So making sure you're having a look at maximising deductions and grants and things like that that are available to the businesses.
Gee, they're good tips for us. So polish the crystal ball into 2024. What are some of the areas that business should be focusing on?
So firstly, we're not going back to normal. We're in a post-COVID era and businesses are currently grappling with high inflation and interest rates. So we've got to expect that volatility and unpredictability to continue. So one thing you can do, of course, we can focus on cutting costs is one thing, but you've also got to look at the costs that you can't control. And to that end, we talk to businesses about managing things like really reducing the waste so that you've got control over what you're spending. Having a look at your supply chain and looking at whether or not that can become local to give you control going into the future. And our other thing that I think is important for business owners is keeping themselves aware of what's actually coming next. And that could be things like, what's happening in the US election in 2024, because that's going to impact us.
Naomi, great tips, challenging times, but they bring opportunities too, don't they?
They do, and one of the best opportunities and the real pivot that we've seen in the market is that businesses have really quickly been able to adapt to a just-in-case mentality instead of the old-fashioned just-in-time when you're talking about stock ordering and suppliers and markets that they're going into. It's really impressive, it's agile, and it's making businesses successful.
Naomi, thanks for joining us. Some really great tips there to take us through into next year.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Kochie.
G'day folks, Tracy Sheen, the Digital Guide, back with another tech tip. Still talking about AI, you're not getting rid of me that easily. We are talking about calendars this week. I know, so exciting, right? But we all need a calendar to keep us on track. If you're anything like me though, you probably have about 5 or 6 different calendars running. You've got one for the family, you've got one for kids, you've got one for clients, maybe you've got something going on for admin, and trying to really keep on top of everything that goes on in your business can just be plain hard work. Don't worry, AI's got a solution for that. Try checking out platforms like Chiron, like Magical, even Vimcal is another great option. These will all start to collate everything in your life, both personal and business, and make life a lot easier. They can automate tasks for you. They can find slots in your calendar where you can make appointments. They can even pre-schedule appointments and content for you. Take that load off your shoulders and give it to the robots, I say. That's it from me. Stay curious, and I'll see you around for another tech tip.
After the break, serial entrepreneur Alec Ramsey is back with more great business advice. Welcome back to Kochie's Business Builders. We're back with Alec Ramsey, co-founder of Air, Florally, Idea Crunch and Churchill Gowns. Now, we've touched on Churchill Gowns already, but Alec, going from gowns to florist is a massive leap. How can you make the connection?
Look, I think the thing that you'll find that really ties all our businesses together is that they're e-commerce focused and direct to consumer.
Yep.
So even though the products themselves might be different, there are so many commonalities in the way that you execute between those companies. So it's less of a jump than you'd think.
Okay, so what was the light bulb moment for Florally?
Yeah, so when we expanded Churchill Gowns to the UK, we took our own business idea and we hired somebody overseas to be able to then, or brought them on board as a co-founder, to be able to expand that idea in a different country. And in doing that, we realised if we're able to replicate our own business idea somewhere else, what stops us finding other great ideas that don't exist in Australia and replicating them? And so our step for Florally actually was less about our personal involvement in the flower market and more about a process that we have been building since then of looking at what exists elsewhere, what's not in Australia, and really starting to analyse. And we kind of concluded it was a combination of low capital costs and a really ripe market for disruption here in Australia that allowed us to conclude that flowers are going to be the next thing. It was much more process driven than anything else.
So, and Florally also was a great supporter of Oz Harvest as well.
Yep.
Why was that important to have that community connection?
We have always really personally believed in giving back. I think there's two parts to this. One, that's just the way I've been raised. The other side of it is that I think that the onus really sits upon people who are in positions of power and influence to be able to make changes. And so just from my perspective, I think being a business owner, I think there is more responsibility upon your shoulders to make a difference.
That's such a great gesture out of Florally. So you're running Churchill Gowns, Florally at the same time, then you go into Idea Crunch. Why?
So kind of similarly with Florally, we were running the two at the same time for about the first year. And then we brought on board a CEO, Tristan Sender, who was the CEO of GoGet, the car share company beforehand, to run the company. And so he became a co-founder with us in Florally. And that allowed us to step aside. And that was kind of the plan that's built what we've been building since then. The thought behind that is we think there are a lot of skills that are different in starting a business than in scaling a business. And we think that it's really great to be able to bring upon other talent who can kind of take that next step.
And what was the motivation for Idea Crunch? What did you hope to achieve?
We've realised that what we're incredibly good at is that starting stage of businesses. And so that's what we wanted to focus on. And Idea Crunch lets us get all these great ideas together, attract really fantastic entrepreneurs and investors, and focus on that first kernel of starting, growing it to proof of concept, and then we're able to bring upon CEOs and release the company separately and continue.
And what's the attraction for founders?
For founders, it allows them to de-risk what they're doing. A lot of people can be great at executing. There is actually a lot of research that goes behind what we start in terms of companies. I think a lot of people don't do that research, but on the other hand, they just also don't want to take the risk. You know, it's hard starting a company. And so for a founder, it allows them to join something that's already had a proof of concept, that's already got really good revenue, and to just run from there.
You're almost the middleman, bringing them all together and giving a bit of comfort for investors that the ideas coming through Idea Crunch have a process behind them, have the benefit of experience.
Exactly. It's turning it on its head and focusing on the ideas first rather than founders first, proving out those ideas and then bringing on founders to take them on.
Okay. And how much training goes into the founders? Is there a gap that they must solve to be successful?
I think it depends upon the industry. I think if you're talking about the classic type of startup, which is a startup that's chasing billion-dollar valuations, there are very different skill sets necessary for founders to have than founders that might want to start a smaller business. And if you're going to chase something smaller than that, you need a really different skill set because you will start with less money, which means you have to be able to do a lot more of the jobs yourself.
Give me an example of a founder that has really got it and succeeded, that's come through Idea Crunch.
Well, I mean, I think Tristan, for our founder of Florally, is a great example of that. You know, he has had a lot of experience beforehand growing GoGet, and I don't know the exact numbers, but you know, he took it from something like a $2 million business to a $50 million business. He knew exactly what he was getting into. He knew the skills that were required to be able to scale it. I think he's a great example of somebody who fit perfectly with the model that we run.
Yeah, that is a great example. Terrific advice from Alex. Stay around, he's going to be back shortly. After the break, online lender Wealth shows us how your digital business can build customer relationships that stick.
Is your customer experience up to scratch? Hi, I'm Catherine Mapasua, Head of Lending at Wealth, and I'm here to share our experiences on how we build some really good relationships with our clients. Firstly, educating your clients on your product offering and legislation changes can be really empowering. We like to send email content to clients to keep them informed on what we've got on offer, so when they are ready to do lending, our product suite is front of mind. Secondly, being transparent on fees and charges is really important. The client needs to know that they trust your brand and understand exactly what they're being charged up front, so there's no hidden charges or surprises down the track. Thirdly, good communication is absolutely key to good relationships with your clients. We like to communicate with our clients via email at certain milestones to keep them updated on the progress of their loan. This also saves the customer time and helps them to understand exactly where they're up to in the process. One of our mottos at Wealth is branchless but not faceless. And we understand that good old customer service can't be replaced with tech. We see technology as an enablement tool to improve and enhance the human experience. This is a really good lesson for any digital business to make sure you're not using tech to replace service. To find out more about our digital and customer experience, head to our website at wealth.com. That's WLTH.com.
Welcome back to Kochie's Business Builders. Today we're chatting with Alec Ramsey, co-founder of Churchill Gowns, Florally, Air and startup accelerator Idea Crunch. Now, Alec, you've scaled all of these businesses, but the latest one, Air, taking on the global perfume industry is a titanic task. Why even try it?
I don't think it's as titanic as it may seem from the outset. All of these businesses, they work when you focus on the consumers specifically. And so as long as you can satisfy those first consumers and you can prove out your business model, it's step after step. And so we don't look at it as taking on the whole industry. We look at it as solving a small problem for a group of people and working from there.
So what was the small problem that you're solving?
The small problem for us is really to do with the accessibility of luxury. And so when we look at perfumes, we really want to be able to give everybody the chance to have a bit of luxury, and that's unaffordable for a lot of people. The manufacturing process allows us to really do that and really deliver at a cost that's just accessible to everyone.
Okay, but the whole ground floor of Myer and David Jones is full of perfume.
Yeah.
It is so accessible.
It is accessible, but not monetarily.
Right.
And really the dollars that are put into the marketing side of it is what drives the costs up. And because we're able to build a brand that is able to use different marketing techniques to what a normal perfume company uses, we're able to sell those for a lot less.
Okay. How do you scale without losing quality and control?
You have to have great people on board. You have to have great processes. If you don't have great processes from the start, and if you don't know what your values are, then you quickly lose control of everything that you're building. And I think that's where quality starts to get sacrificed. So a big part of it is building a culture in all of our companies that understands that quality matters, that we're not here to make a quick buck, we're here to actually do something that really brings value to consumers.
So how do you build the foundation for the culture and make sure it sticks within each organisation?
It has to be founder-led at the start, which is why the co-founders we bring on board for our companies matter so much. You have to have people with certain values, and you have to honestly have processes in place where you constantly review it. I think if you let culture organically grow without any sort of directive, then you risk it growing to be anything. Whereas if you have processes in place where you can sit down on a quarterly or half-yearly basis and really say, what are we doing here? Is this sticking to our core values? Then you make that possible.
What role do consumers, your customers, play in that and the feedback that you get?
Talking to customers is incredibly important. I think it's one of the most important things in running a business, full stop, because even industries can change while you're part of them, and customers' needs can change. So being able to set up, for example, NPS surveys in your online marketing and in your emails allows you to get direct feedback from customers constantly. You can sit down with your staff and say, this is what we've seen, people saying.
Fascinating. Alec, I'm exhausted just talking to you about 4 businesses, let alone running one. Mate, thank you for spending the time with us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, David.
If you want to hear more about Alec's latest venture, head to air.co. And remember, if you're looking for small business tips or the latest news and expert advice 24/7, then you can find them online at kochiesbusinessbuilders.com.au or follow Kochie's Biz on Facebook, LinkedIn, Insta and X. That's it for us for 2023. See you in the new year and have a fantastic summer.